So now we're going to introduce Kristi Casey Sanders, who's already up here, and she's going to talk about augmented reality. We're going to get a little futuristic, cool, techie, get all those geek senses going. How many of you know what augmented reality is? Yeah, not
awesome.
even half of you. College? I think that's something else.
Yeah, that's probably the number one comment I get when I talk about augmented reality. They're like, "Oh, I thought that was illegal."
Well, we're going to talk about that today. She has this cool little thing we're setting up here.
Oh, yeah. So just to kind of explain who I am and what I do and why I don't have a PowerPoint presentation and all that kind of good stuff. My name is Kristi Casey Sanders. I am the VP of Creative Chief Storyteller for Plan Your Meetings. Is anyone here familiar with Plan Your Meetings? Okay, a couple. Oh, thank you for shooting that arm up. So basically, we were founded 16 years ago to help identify who it was within within companies that were planning meetings. Because in the recession of the 90s, corporate meeting departments were being eliminated, but meetings were still going on. So 80% of the meetings that happen in the corporate world are being done by people who are primarily admins, who are being thrown into the position. And so there was a great need to have some kind of best practices education, empowering them, teaching them how to innovate and change things. So that's what our mission is at Plan Your Meetings. We do that by creating content. I think my mic just went out. Oh, there we go. We do that by creating content on an almost daily basis online. Instead of journalists who I hire to learn about the industry and then write about it, I primarily have people like you who are meeting practitioners talk about their experiences. Because I think that ultimately you'll learn the most about crisis management from a meeting planner who woke up one day and somebody died in the hotel room during a 3-day conference. Then somebody just going, and then step one is this. So that's a thing. When we have live events, which we do in different cities, we actually put a focus on, instead of just talking about things, showing you how they work, and kind of taking you behind the scenes. So you can go ahead and put the visual up for my phone. So I wanted to kind of show you a little bit about how augmented reality works and how we use it at our events. So I travel and I talk a lot about technology. So what I like to do is I like to experiment with things first. The first time I ever experienced augmented reality was actually in a novel. It was 2003. William Gibson wrote this book called Pattern Recognition. And the heroine had a visor, much like Google Glass is now, which enabled her to be on a location, put this visor on, and then see something that had been overlaid over what the actual street view was. That's happening. Have any of you played with LAR? 1, 2. So what LAR is, there are two different forms of augmented reality. There's geocoded, and then there is image coded. So geocoded, this is LAR. The second time I ran into augmented reality was at a conference, and they used LAR. So here's Ellis Island. I can click for more information. I can tweet the view. It can take me there. So Social Media Tourism Symposium was using augmented reality in order to take people through a convention center. So that's one way in which you can use it. Say that you're at this really cavernous place and you don't know kind of how to get people from place to place, but it's a very techno-savvy group. You could do something like LAR and just kind of, instead of Ellis Island or whatever, you could have, okay, here is where Corbin's session's going to be, and here is where this is going to be. And so that's a very basic, the interface isn't great. Hey, yeah, and so you can still see things behind it. Basically, augmented reality is anything that is layered over reality. It's computer derived, so it can be an image, it can be a 3D animation. So this was the third time I was exposed to augmented reality was through Chick-fil-A, which I'm from Atlanta, so that's a really easy place to stop and get, yeah. So they had this app for kids, and I was like, I wonder what that does. So this is a 3D animation. So you see when I tilt my phone, I get different views. But it's basically just tied to this image. So whether this image was on a sticker, whether this image was on a t-shirt, whether this image was on a billboard, it would still activate the same media. So that's what's really cool about augmented reality, is once you code the experience, and this is just a simple 3D animation, once you code the experience, anytime that image triggers through your scanner, it activates the same experience. So what they did with this too is, so that was that. Here's another cover. Oh, I gotta be careful about the glare from the overhead lights. So here's another one. Each one has some different superpower. And so he broke my phone. What's really cool is if you get them together, they actually interact with each other, and they do things that they don't do by themselves. So that's something that you can use to encourage people to go through trade shows. Imagine if you had different experiences coded on different business cards or things like that that were at different exhibit booths. It would be something that would encourage people to collect them, because if they didn't have both of these, they wouldn't have that experience. Because when you just have that little cow, he just runs, but he doesn't run in a fun little circle. So that's a way to kind of engage people and to give them an incentive to collect things. So that's 3D animation. We use it in a couple of different ways with my company. I mentioned Plan Your Meetings. We also have, we're the show program for the Alliance and the Fox Theater and the Opera and the major arts entities in Atlanta. And so we developed this app called the Theater Plus Network. Okay. Let's give you the best view. So this is a show program. So when people scan the program in the theater or online in our digital edition, it activates this animation. This is created using just Adobe Suite. It's just one of the, like if you have a designer on staff or if you want to hire somebody, the way this works is that each one of these activities is kind of coded. So like if you ever built like an image for a magazine cover, you would have the base image and you would have something happen on top of that, and then you would have maybe the text that would go down here. So this is created in the same way. I don't know how clear it is for you or not, but so when he created this experience, he took the picture of the cover and then using this Adobe program, created different layers like you would using Photoshop or Illustrator. And so, but the difference is some of the layers are animated. Now, each one of these buttons is a call to action. So that's the other cool thing about augmented reality is you can embed multiple calls to action. So if you had an ad for an exhibitor or a sponsor or something like that in your conference programs, whether your conference program was delivered digitally or in print, you could actually have multiple things, and every time somebody pushed one of these buttons, it would actually activate a different experience, which would then be collected as data points. So that's the other really cool thing about augmented reality, is that it actually allows you to collect information on how people are interacting. Interacting with your sponsor's ads, interacting with people's name badges, interacting with all sorts of stuff. That's a little slow to load, but so that is, that's that. After experimenting with the show programs, we brought it into the Plan Your Meetings magazine. So this is our PYM Plus app. Okay, there we go. So when people look at the magazine, now they see an animation. So you can still see my hand. And then what happens is this is inviting people to join us on our different social networks. We have about 40,000 fans spread out across different platforms. It goes. But if somebody hadn't been a subscriber, they could go ahead and they subscribe right away. And what I would get is, in my monthly report, I would get, this cover was scanned X amount of times, and these are the things people interacted with. And then if you're able to, just like on a website, like when you have a banner ad on somebody else's website and you put a little question mark and a referral code just so you know where that comes from, you can do the same thing with your augmented reality content. So if you had sponsors and you wanted them to be able to track what came from your channel, from your event channel, you could just have them put a little code, a little skew on whatever URLs they were programming into the content. Cool. Another way in which we use it is we use it to embed extra stuff because, we only do one magazine a year. Everything else we do is digital or in a live event. So this actually allows us to then take, let me see if I can get the glare off of it so you can see it. Let it activate. May not be close enough. Here, let me try one more. This is my amazing hip tripod technique. Oh. See, because it's image recognition, you have to, oh, thanks. Thanks, ISIS in New York City. Let me see if I can get another. But another thing that you can do is, let me see. So I can activate on my picture if I can focus it. Yeah, and that's the thing. It's like it's image recognition. So if your images are blurry.
Do you know how much we love you?
So you can embed messages from your CEOs.
I
do. You don't really need to hear me though. So, imagine, like I mentioned that you could geolocate something. You could also image locate it. If you geolocated it, you could actually you could green screen Liz, and then at registration, when people checked in, all they'd have to do is just, check in, and then if they had an app that was geocoded to that experience, then Liz could pop up in full 3D and welcome people and say, thank you so much for coming to Planner Tech. Click here if you've never been here before. Do you know what our hashtag is? Why don't you post this picture, and give them multiple calls to action. And each action is trackable. So that's what I love about it. The other thing I love about it, there are two main ways in which you can code. One is we use Aurasma, which is super, super easy. Let's see. So Aurasma.com, anybody can register to be a developer. They give you a channel. So PYM Plus is just a channel on Aurasma. Layar is another one that you can use, and that one is what you see is what you get. So you pay per page, you can just put an image there, you just drag an experience and it codes it. It's perfect. But another reason why I really, really love Aurasma is because it has an API that's really easy to integrate into event apps. So we use Topi for our PYM live events. So as soon as Scott Zermatt's thank you message. So you'll see there's a little PYM Plus sign up here. So we are able to encode things like our logos, sponsor logos, things like that. So while people are at our events, they can push the PYM Plus and within the context of our conference app, access this augmented reality experience. So it was super, super easy. And I think David's going to be talking to you guys a little later about how that works. But yeah, so that's pretty much it. That's my time. I'm going to be here all day, so if you're curious about stuff, if you want to play with stuff, if you want to download Topi, you can do that, and then you can play with the magazine and see some of the Easter eggs we've hidden inside of it, the way we've used sponsor videos, what we've done for ads or content, PDFs that we've hidden in there. So that is one way that you can just play. So that's TOPI, and that'll give you the little PYM Plus button, or just download PYM Plus. And we'll be back August 22nd, actually. So if you're a meeting planner, if you're a meeting designer, practitioner, and are curious about more kind of tech experiences, we'll be here for a breakfast meeting in Midtown. So just let me know that too. So thank you.